Shing shing. KEKFILA TCG. It's a great day here at KEKFILA TCG, a rebranded YouTube channel. I'm your host, the KEKFILA, and today I have my tournament report from the Los Angeles National January Sakazuki, now Purple Luffy extravaganza. We played OP05, and what's going to be in this video is my deck list, why I played that, and all my games, and a little bit of my experiences. I will say, if you are here for national drama, that will be in my next video, which I'll cover. I believe we need to have some different solutions brought up, even though it's probably going to go on deaf ears. However, at least there's like a solution out there that's like a quick, easy Bandai just Googles how to XYZ, right? So without further ado, let's get into the goo. So I played Blue-Black Sakazuki. I was playing quite a bit of Queen at my locals, but at my locals, I was losing to a lot of new players playing Sakazuki and found that it really had a lot of flexibility in its gameplay. So I just decided to jump on the new TCG, Sakazuki the TCG. And here is my deck list. My deck list does have a few key choices. Specifically, I don't run any Ice Age. I actually worked on this build quite a bit with Eric Quintana when he did his build. And I have a very structured way I like to play. I never like to half-ass two things. I like to whole-ass one thing. And the main thing is, it felt like that this build felt like it was flexible to go into a later game, so I can draw more cards, get to 10 Kaido possibly, and then draw more cards that would have more defense for me. And in order to remove cards, I just have to see the right cards and kind of high roll in that aspect. There is a lot of other builds, but I decided to go with this. I think it really worked out for me in a lot of ways, and I really wouldn't change anything about it other than I am planning in my next events playing Rush Usopp until I get really punished for it, essentially. I think it's a great meme card, and I think I want to really have fun in this game, so that's what it's going to be. We're going to play one Rush Usopp in my deck going forward. Let's get into my matchups. First of all, this was advertised as a potentially 11-round event, and ended up going 10 rounds, and I did have a 2-round bye, and there were 3 total repairs. So I had a total of 11 dice rolls, because I had 8 games plus 3 repairs, and I will tell you that I lost every single dice roll. So just know that in all of these games, I lost every dice roll, which actually it did not matter. I didn't really care. There were times where they were asking, or I was asking, do you want to do low roll or high roll? And they would say whatever you want. I'd say low roll, and I'd obviously lose that one as well. So the dice was not in my favor at all that whole day. I can kind of sum up my losses pretty quickly, but I'll just go into every single one because I do have a selfie with each opponent, and they're all very kind to me, and we'll just kind of jump into my thoughts. So the first 2 rounds, I did have 2 buys. And essentially, we were just a bunch of bye guys just walking around, having fun at the convention and going back to the hotel, hanging out, just a bunch of bye guys. And from there, I went to my round 3 at, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, because that's when you're supposed to show up for One Piece. And with that, we did get a repair. My first opponent, he was 1-1. I did get a selfie with him, and I was a 2-0, because obviously I had the double bye. So then I got repaired to a different opponent. I wasn't sure if he was going to also have a bye or he was another player, and I couldn't tell at the time, but at the time I felt that he was kind of nervous. I thought maybe he had something to prove because he was already 2-0, but he was also had a bye, and he made a few mistakes, and I think he had like an ulti in this deck, which I would honestly call a little questionable. It's obviously a very good card, but I think Sakazuki's deck list is extremely, extremely tight. But, however, I do want to say I felt like in this matchup, I ended up just seeing an extra Rebecca Hina Lucci this game, was able to get good value in the middle game. Essentially what happened on this game is he was able to go second. He played a Borsalino. I played a Borsalino. He played another black Borsalino. On my 7 Dawn turn, I play a blue Borsalino. He plays another blue Borsalino. I in return play another blue Borsalino. So in the matter of 5 turns, we played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We played actually 6 Borsalinos in 6 turns. We played 6. That's kind of nuts, right? So that was my fun game with that first opponent. I ended up coming away with a pretty good win. I don't quite remember if I played down a 10-drop Kaido here, but I felt like going first, I actually had a very good advantage just with what I saw and how things were going into the matchup. So here's my opponent here. He's very kind to me the whole time. Round 4, I faced my opponent. I believe his name was Michael, and Michael had just a very good hand. He was able to go second against me, and I didn't see Black Hina at all. I was able to play a Black Sabo. I was ditching every card I could, just digging for Black Hina. I needed to see that card in order to do anything. So I just lost all momentum and an advantage when we were both removing each other's cards. I did end up playing like a Tashigi on my 3-Dawn turn because I had nothing to do. And essentially, he removed that right away. So I was just punished for playing cards to try to set up things. And he was being rewarded for, not being punished. I just didn't have a Hina to follow up on any of his plays. And I'll just kind of chalk that up to the deck not wanting to cooperate. But Michael ended up going X and 3 in the event, I believe. So we'll just move on to here to round 5. Round 5, I go into it, and my opponent, he immediately shows a Doflamingo mat, and I kind of say, I'm the Doflamingo guy. And funny enough, he didn't quite understand what that really is. I said, I also qualified with Doflamingo. I don't think he knows who I am, which is a kind of refreshing. A lot of people do know who I am when I sit in front of them, and I kind of like that they don't know sometimes. And with that, when I face my opponent, I play this whole game out. Essentially, the turning point here is I play a Borsalino, and he wasn't able to follow up with a Borsalino regardless because he didn't have a great eruption. He did follow up with the Borsalino on that turn, but he had to use Uxuru, and then I was able to re-Borsalino his, and he wasn't able to really get back at me. So I had kind of a big Borsalino field at that point, and that was kind of frustrating on his point because he just kind of lost at the hand advantage game. And I was able to kind of clutch out this game pretty well. And if you guys have ever played Sakazuki versus Sakazuki, the matchup can snowball right in the middle of the game if your opponent doesn't have any answers. So that's kind of just how that game went. After the game, he did realize who I was. He's like, oh, you're the KEKFILA? My bad, bro. Yeah, I've seen maybe a video or so. I know you play Blue Dofi, and super nice guy talking to. And with that, I go on to round 6. Round 6, I sit in front of my opponent. He seems very comfortable, and honestly, I get like the pretty bad hand. And then we have a couple turns, and then we have a repair, and we're like, oh man, so we just talk for a bit, hang out, right? And then the repair, I have to face the same guy. With that repair, I face him again. I draw just as bad. I didn't see a single. I saw Black King at the beginning of the game, and he bottom decked it. But on my 3-Dawn turn, I need to play a 3-cost just so I'm able to have tempo in the game. So me not playing the Hina is just me playing scared. So unfortunately, my Hina was bottom decked right away. I didn't see another Hina, and I just kind of lost total momentum after that because I wasn't able to see a Hina the rest of the game and set up for that, unfortunately. But as I digress, I'm going to blame that loss again on not seeing Black Hina, which essentially is the bane of me. So my opponent was very nice to me, and we had a good time. But going on to round 7, I face my friend here who's playing Zoro. Now, I did talk to him a lot on day 2 because we did do quite a bit of trades. But eventually he's playing Zoro, and I have never, ever played a game against Zoro before as Sakazuki. So I actually wasn't sure how to approach this entirely. I had a pretty good idea. Hopefully I see Lucci's, and hopefully I'm able to slow him down. And I want to guard out of attacks early so he's not able to use things like Diablo Jambe and Rush Luffy and just kill me outright. So that all doesn't really go too well. He's actually able to attack really efficiently, play down a card or two. I'm not able to remove it right on time. I kind of hold my Lucci for a while, the one Lucci that I saw in the whole game. I did get a good value out of it, but nothing too crazy. essentially with that, I was just trying to ward off anything. He didn't see any Namis. That was actually his problem. He kept his hand, but didn't have any Namis. So he wasn't able to get a lot of resources from that. However, he was pretty aggressive with everything. And it came down to me having exact counter against his 14k Diablo Jambe swing. I was able to play Manshare, use it 3 times in the course of the game, and then play a Rebecca to get another Tashigi. So I was recycling Tashigis like crazy. And I almost kind of trolled myself. I should have thought about this longer. I played a Sabo to see if I can dig for any more 2Ks, like high rolls. But really, I already had just enough counter, so I kind of reduced my one. So I was lucky I didn't get really screwed out of that. And essentially, as he's telling me his last turn, okay, can I do this or do this? Okay, I'll Diablo Jambe, swing 14. And I was thinking of the most asshole way I could counter out of a 14k attack, because I have exactly 10k counter being 4 2ks. So I placed down 2k, 2k, 1k, 2k, 1k, and 2k. So I placed it out like that, just kind of the most asshole way. We were having a good time. So he did that. I think he went to a party after that game. Essentially, it was either win that game or go to a party. So I guess he just had a good time after that. But essentially, I was able to take that game and go on to the next round. The next round, I was facing an Enel. And here's the thing, we started my round 2 at 3 p.m. We had a few repairs, and it was really exhausting at this time. I was kind of being a little extroverted at the time, and I had to really cool down in the middle of this game. So I end up facing this Enel, and I'm extremely exhausted. I kind of feel like the whole venue is exhausted at this point. And what ends up happening is that he low rolls super low. Like he's able to go second, which I honestly disagree with, but he goes second, and then he doesn't seem Ohm or Holy on his 4-Dawn turn. He just swings 9, which I would have took a 5. So he didn't see any combo. So I'm just kind of free rolling this game as I'm just playing down cards and removing. He plays down a Ohm on 8-Dawn turn and doesn't see anything. So he's actually, this is a struggle, right? This is actually struggling to keep anything on board and play anything. Just the deck didn't want to cooperate for him. And I did have a blue Kaido, which I was just hoping to hold on to because it makes his matchup really easy. So I ended up playing down my 10-drop blue Kaido, drawing me a ton of cards. I have like 12 cards in hand. I'm able to fend off any aggression opponent has. And what ended up happening in this game is at one point he had like a 7 cost and an 8 cost on the field. And my basic math skills just went to the trash. Right, so normally you can remove a 7 cost really easily with a leader swing and then a Hina and then maybe a Lucci or a Houndblaze, right? So essentially I reduce his 8 cost to a 7, and then I'm like, oh yeah, 4 minus 7 is not 2, it's 3. Crap. So I had to like use extra cards to remove that 8 cost, which really sucked. Like I would play a Hina over a card, then I'd play a Rebecca over that Hina, and then I'd play a Hina over another, like actually probably like a Rob Lucci, something really good. And then from there, I'm able to actually remove it with another Rob Lucci. So I'm discarding so many extra cards just to make this work, and it's so stupid. Like I discarded like 4 or 5 extra cards the next turn. I ended up playing a Suru and Houndblazing, but I Suru'd a 5 cost to a 3, and I can't Houndblaze a 3 cost. When there was a 4 cost, I could make a 2. So it was absolutely horrendous. When I Houndblazed, I gave power. I didn't swing with it because I was like, well, I don't want to swing. He's at 2 life. I don't want to put him at 1 life. So honestly, completely horrendous. I'm like fumbling. I'm telling him, dude, I'm fumbling this. This is terrible. And I still have a full field. I'm able to win the game by actually quite a large margin. And he low rolled super low. I high rolled, and then I tried to fumble it like 3 touchdowns, but I was still able to come out with the win there. So I think my opponent, for him being so patient with me, he was very understanding because we were all so freaking tired. But I ended up winning that game against the Enel, which I'm able to go to round 9. And in round 9, I did face another Sakazuki. My opponent, I believe his name is Tien. I faced his opponent a few times on webcams. I probably have games with him before. He's like, yeah, I remember you. I beat you once with Whitebeard, and then you beat me once with Queen. But you were playing, he was playing Zoro. So I was playing Doflamingo. Then he's faced me in multiple formats before, and we have this little grudge now. So we're having a good time. He's honestly super duper freaking nice the whole time, right? We're just kind of going through the motions, and we both say we're both tired. At this point, I am laser focused. I'm drinking tons of water. I am being me. However, I am thinking. I know that 7 minus 1 minus 4 is 2. Okay, my basic math skills, they came up from the last one, so I had to really hone those basic math skills. Fortunately, again, I was forced to go first. My opponent was seeing pretty good stuff, and I thought, in my experience in this game, I'm probably going to need to play a 10-drop Kaido in order to win this game. I need some sort of ace in the hole and something kind of unexpected. So essentially, I had a 10-drop Kaido from the beginning of the game. I normally discard that right away in this kind of mirror match going first. But for some reason, I felt like I had other cards I can discard. And let's see what happens if I'm able to hold back the bay and be aggressive. So aggressive enough where he has to be defensive so I can play a 10-drop Kaido. And that's actually what happened. So essentially, I'm able to play a 10-drop Kaido later in the game. He does remove it with, Ice Age and all these things, but his hand's crippled, like really bad. So I'm able to Rebecca Hina Lucci, he Rebecca Lucci's me, and I'm able to finish him off with a simple Suru Houndblaze, maybe like after another Rebecca Hina Lucci's, probably like 2 more turns of that. And then I'm able to Suru Houndblaze, he just didn't have enough counter in hand, right? He actually only had like 1k counter in hand when he had 3 cards. So it was just kind of unfortunate with that. I was able to take that dub, fortunately for me, and have a good time. My basic math skills are doing super well, and he was super nice and everything. So thank you, Tian, for the amazing game, the experience, the con. It's kind of one of my favorite games actually here. So, and then finally, unfortunately, it's on round 11, guys. Round 10, I end up facing my opponent here. It was actually a repair as well. I want to talk about that repair. Again, I lose the die roll. He goes second. I mulligan. I draw into the worst hand I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing I could do with this hand. I am losing this game. Repair happens. Woohoo! I get a different opponent. I get to draw a different hand. I still go first, and my opponent, he mulligans. I think I keep. I have a really strong going first hand, and I'll kind of go into like the big points of this game. My opponent didn't really make any major mistake until later, and I felt like I mind gamed it. So I'll kind of pressure the board here. He was playing a lot of cards that draw him cards like Hina and Kuzan, just the kind of cards he's able to see, but I'm removing those on sight. I wanted to play a 10-drop Kaido as soon as I could. Unfortunately, he played a 4-cost Kuzan right before that, forcing me not to play a 10-drop Kaido. I'm just asking for that to get removed. So I do some sort of combo to remove that and build sort of a board presence and be aggressive, so he has to be defensive again. And he ends up going pretty defensive and actually using a lot of Houndblazes, which is also aggressive, with his 3-cost Hinas. So at this point, my hand's actually really limited. I did not want to use a 10-drop Kaido anymore because I'm at 1 life. I am scared for my life at this point. I cannot drop a 10-drop Kaido. Fortunately, I draw a second 10-drop Kaido in the beginning of my turn. I go, fuck, this is bullshit. So I feel like I kind of need to use a 10-drop Kaido. I'm going to discard this one. So I kind of big brain here. I have my leader and a character on the board. They're both 5Ks. And he has 2 4Ks and 4 cards in hand. And I'm thinking to myself, let's see what I need to do here. And if I can get cards out of his hand, I might just play this Rob Lucci anyway to remove his board in order to combat things. But I wonder if I can get away with playing a 10-drop Kaido. So I discard the first 10-drop Kaido, kind of saying, I'm not playing this card. Like, I say that shit out loud, right? So I say, I am not going to play this card at all. This card's terrible right now. So and then I swing with my character Hina 5k at their blue Hina, which is a 4k, and he doesn't give me a 2k counter because his hand's limited. It might just get removed anyway, so it lets it die. And then I use my leader, swing 5k at that, reducing it by 1, make it into level 2. And he goes, well, okay. He doesn't actually give it much thought. He just kind of lets it die, thinking I'm just going to remove it anyway, and it's pretty tricky So then I just play a 10-drop Kaido, and his gut just goes, like, I can't remove it. I only have 5 cards in hand after drawing for turn. He has to have like a very specific hand to remove that, and like, you know, kind of be in a safe spot, which I'm probably just gonna Rebecca Hinaluchi that back because I just drew 4 cards, right? So with that, I was able to kind of secure the game with that. And he said that was a really tricky play. I should have probably just defended the Hina, so I'm able to like really threaten you with like my leader and like a character, and then see how that goes. But he didn't really expect that, because honestly, if he guarded it, I probably would have just played a Lucci and went from there. But essentially, it was just kind of what happened. But super fun game. Round 10 that got finished. I went over to the sidelines. You know, I'm talking to my friend Jules Senpai, who did get top 32. Grats for him. And what ended up happening is they stopped the rounds at round 10. No more rounds after that. You know, everyone was pretty upset about that, including me, because I was X2 and I said my tiebreakers probably aren't that great. Just a feeling. And I got 123rd, so I barely made top 128 for some extra pricing. And unfortunately for that is the end of my run. Didn't get to do top 64. I actually felt pretty on fire, ready to do any kind of tournament stuff like that. But I would have rather honestly lost round 11 than not played it at all, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Hopefully, we all know that a lot of our criticisms and things like that, it kind of falls on deaf ears, which is pretty sad for the most part. But I do appreciate you guys listening to my story today and how I kind of got up there, and then I got, you know, all my great pricing, and I'm selling some of it right now and kind of at a premium price. I do want you guys to help support me so I can have great intros for my games. So if you ever want any of these special cards right here, feel free to DM me. In any case, I will hold on to them and just make them part of my collection for now. So thank you all so much for watching this recap video. The next video, I'll be talking about all the drama, and maybe the video after that, I'll talk about how to run a One Piece tournament. We'll see how those go. Make sure you guys like the video if you're liking the content. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And comment down below how your experience was.
All right, guys, and hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.
Shing shing. KEKFILA TCG.